Two traders. Two visions. Two objectives. One chart. The bottom line.
Hey everybody, sorry about the bit of a delay there, but coming to you live on a lovely Friday here. Welcome to The Bottom Line. My name is Paul Sampson, and joining me in Ben's place today is none other than
Dr. B.
Dr. B. We got a lovely treat for you folks. So for the little bit of time we had you waiting, we brought in a special guest to make up for it, hopefully. So Dr. B, first time on The Bottom Line with me today.
Great to be here.
Yeah, good to have you, my friend. It's I think this is actually our first video we've done together.
I think it is.
Since ever. Yeah. So
a
little bit of a rundown for anybody that's actually new even, and just since we have the opportunity here. So for The Bottom Line, we pretty much just kind of cover a little bit of everything. We go over stocks, we go over crypto. We kind of end it with a little jazz at the end with a bullish or bearish segment where we're going to take one asset. Usually one of us get to choose. One of us gets to choose the direction. The other one has to have the opposing view, and we just kind of have some fun with it. See which one of those two bullish or bearish segments play out. I guess predictions, however you want to put it out. The analysis, so to speak. And then everybody votes for that in the comments down below. So we got another jam-packed episode for you. We've got a little bit of an end of the week rally coming into it. A little bit for stocks, am I right? And
sure.
Crypto for sure. We had another interesting week out of Bitcoin. So yeah, why don't we just go ahead, not waste any time. We'll jump right on in. Dr. B, would you do us the honors in starting us off?
Sure, yeah. So this week it was a busy week in the stock market. We had the FOMC meeting on Wednesday. Hopefully many of you tuned in for that. But this week, I'll tell you what, CVS had a pretty big pullback, almost 20% pullback.
Wow.
I'm going to zoom out here on my charts, and you can see here that CVS has this nice trend line on the weekly chart spanning back from, what is this, 2003 area, this pivot low here around the Great Recession time frame, okay, coming right into this level, okay, and you also see this pivot high, this pivot low, and whenever you have two lines intersecting at the same time, okay, that's usually a great level for a bounce, okay, and I'm going to zoom in here on this chart, and you're going to get to see how the price reacted to this level, okay. Now, on a daily time frame, what actually happened here is we put in a bottoming tail. All right, bottoming tails are very powerful, bullish signals. Let's see if we can get this up here on the chart.
There it is.
So the bottoming tail here, all right, you can see right where these lines intersected, you can see a huge bounce, maybe 5-6% bounce on CVS, and you can see that it actually came back down and retrace. We like to buy on the 50% retrace here, okay? And so we were trading this intraday. I think this was Tuesday maybe that this happened. So I'm going to zoom in even further, and I'm going to show you the 10-minute chart.
Getting down to the nitty-gritty.
Actually, I'm going to go to the 1-minute chart. That's
boy,
where I really have my edge. Okay, I actually have a course on this called the 1-minute scalpel. So this is where I feel most comfortable. And you can see here, on the chart on CVS, you had this nice falling wedge or falling channel, and look at this breakout, okay? From this break, if you had been following this and bought this right here on the breakout, this is around a 5% move on CVS intraday. So that's a huge move on CVS this week. Paul, what do you have? What are you looking at?
Yeah, no, that's incredible. It's interesting to see some of the, and I always say this because, for the longest time, crypto to me was always incredibly volatile compared to stocks. And, I know that through history, obviously we get times where the stock market is just as, volatile in the same sense, but to see like 20% drops out of certain things, pretty much on the regular at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole year at least, ever since January, you're seeing whether that's increases or decreases, like it's pretty much any asset at this point. The only thing that's not really going crazy right now is the housing market. But yeah, so for me, I'm looking at Bitcoin, right? We had a really exciting week, in the sense of everybody kind of getting probably a little nervous, right? So we had a really big decline. We actually dumped out of the overall range that we've been sitting in, basically trading between 61 to 72K, let's just say, right? Since the January time frame, we dumped down into 56,000. I believe that was about 2 days ago. And one thing I wanted to note here, right, is that When looking at, even the smaller time frame trade setups, for me personally, I like to see when like the previous day or the previous week, highs or lows get swept, because essentially you're knocking out traders during that time frame, right? So at any given moment, there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people entering the market, high leverage, even if it's not high leverage, it's just they have positions where they are just managing it quickly, whatever the case may be, right? And there's generally stop losses or liquidation points, all those fun things. Well, one thing I wanted to note here is that we have for 2 months in a row, so we came down on the last day of April, and we basically just came right into the March low. So as we opened up May, now we had March and April. So anybody that got into a position, in the March and April time frame, most likely they're not catching the exact lows, right? Most people are kind of waiting for a trend change, or see an area where they're going to get in as far as try to identify where the direction is going to go. So it's not usually at those lows. And then what happens is, they're in their position, they're sat comfortable, waiting for the rise to occur. And then what happens is you come down, you stop everybody out, all right? You actually have spent so much time down here that what we did here is you essentially just, everybody's now piling in for shorts. And then at the end of the day, we come back up, we get the rise. We reclaimed our low here for the month, and now we're actually running back up into this range here. So it's just an ebb and flow, basically, of the price action. But for me, I am looking for Bitcoin. We did come down and took those lows officially and effectively, I guess. And then what we have here now, and I know that Dr. B, Ben, Gareth will refer to pivot points as swing areas, right? A pivot high, pivot low. You'll see a lot of pivots marked on my chart, and what that is, that's averages of price. So it's very similar to like a moving average, things like that, right? But it's not moving. It's an average for a certain time frame, time period even. And right here we have the average of price for May, which is basically the pivot for May, which is the average of last month. So I have a range pulled up here. We have a region that we're looking to basically get back above, which right now is basically 61,700. We've already conquered kind of the first line in the sand, which was basically living back above the March and April low. And essentially I'm looking to run this back towards about 64,000, which is basically our point of control, right? So our highest traded volume area, right? When you're looking at a range based on the fixed range volume profile tool, that little P up there, is how I'm pulling this right here. So you got a little confluence right here where you got an untapped daily level of resistance. We have the April naked point of control, which is the point of control right here for the range. And then we've got the average of price for April, aka for May. But yeah, so I'm looking for Bitcoin to run it back to at least $64,000 and kind of reevaluate here in the near term here. Dr. B, what else do you have going on for us that we could take a peek at?
Yeah, I'm going to change it up a little bit. I was going to take a look at Wolf, and I may still do that, but I do want to talk about the S&P here. And so this is the weekly chart on the S&P, and you can see here that this trend line comes all the way back from the pre-Great Recession time frame, right? So somewhere around, let's see, right around 160 on the SPY, which is an ETF. Okay, of the S&P. And you can see here that the price came all the way up. Here's the 2021 highs, and so far this is the 2024 highs. And what's really interesting, if you were to go to the daily chart here, okay, I'll go to the daily chart and zoom in a little bit. It's really important to understand what's been going on here with the S&P, because the S&P is really kind of the conductor or the orchestrator of all risk assets, right?
Yeah.
So as the S&P goes up, typically you see the NASDAQ go up because there's a lot of correlation there, some overlap. You see Bitcoin oftentimes following the S&P, and you see equities following the S&P. Of course, commodities like gold, they typically trade inverse to the S&P. But one thing I wanted to show you here is, now I don't have my moving averages up right now, but if you were to look at the 50 daily moving average, okay, you'd see that the 50 daily moving average is right about here, okay? And what's really interesting is whenever you're above the 50-day moving average, you're in an uptrend, okay? And if you look back over here, all right, the 50-day moving average was somewhere around here, okay? And so when you're below the 50-day, you're in a downtrend. When you're above the 50-day, you're in an uptrend. Well, look at what happened here. We pierced below the 50, and now we're actually, I'm of the opinion that we're likely retracing and are going to have another pullback on the S&P. This is really, really important to understand before you go in and go long on stocks after a 27% move on the S&P, okay, from October, be very careful. We're still very close to all-time highs. And I just want to go back and point out that, let me just erase a couple things here. This is a bear flag, right? So the charts are telling us probabilities. The probabilities of the market falling right now are very high, right? We are in a downtrend now, right? We were in an uptrend. Now we're in a downtrend with a bear flag. So I am very much looking at a fall on the S&P, and I'll just pull this up where I'm looking for it to fall to, all right? Okay, probably somewhere, let me back up a little bit more here so you can see where my lines are.
That area.
There we go. So you can see the lows, the COVID lows are right here. You have the 2022 lows right in here, all right? And where does this line come into? Comes right into about 450 on the S&P. So, again, I would recommend charting the S&P, becoming very comfortable with the S&P, and before you make a buy in the crypto world, the commodity world, or the equities world, chart this and understand, are we in an uptrend or are we in a downtrend?
Nice.
Yeah.
Nicely put. I'm going to quickly cover Ethereum, and then we can take a look at our bullish or bearish piece, which is going to be Polkadot or DOT for crypto. And a really simple outlook here, when looking at Bitcoin as well, right? I highlighted that Bitcoin was breaking back into a range overhead of us, right? We were looking into that 64K region. ETH pretty much has done the same, type of movement here. And basically, we got this line right here is actually the 0.382 retracement that we came into a couple times here so far from the overall low. I'll zoom out for you here in a second, but basically pulled from the overall low of like $900 in summer of 2022 to the $4,000 high that we just recently put in. This is the actual 382 fib retracement, which is just an area if you get like a shallow pullback, that's like generally where you'll come into and get a bounce from. So we've bounced off of that a couple times so far. Anyways, back into the range now, got the reclaim right here, and just a similar target just above us. We've got the average of price from last month sitting up here. We've got April's naked point of control, all right? So the highest area of traded volume here, which generally price will seek out once it's back into a range, right? Whether it gets in from the bottom or if you actually deviate from the high and come back in. So it's just an area that we know to look to. And then personally, I'll just be looking to see if we come up in this region and actually, rotate this whole range in full, meaning from low to high back up to like 3,400. But pretty much just a simple range here down for Ethereum at the moment. All right. Dr. B, it's your first time doing this, but we go right back in front of our beautiful spinning wheel here.
Oh, okay. All right, no problem.
And then we're going to go ahead and take the segment for bullish or bearish. And basically, usually we have a nice little graphic. wasn't sure if you got it in on the live stream. But generally what we're going to do is we're going to cover an asset, like I said. This week is my turn anyways to pick. I'm picking Polkadot, so it's kind of your first time looking at it today. I'm choosing bullish, so you're going to be forced to go bearish. We're just going to give a fun overview on like what we could see happening with the price action between now and next Friday. So I'll go ahead and start us off, and then I'm interested to see what you have to say.
Sure. Now, Paul, remind me what the time frame is on this.
Just from basically from today Friday to next Friday. So
Okay.
just within the week.
Okay.
And usually with, I go big or go broke, so I go for like 25, 40% moves. You could choose a 2%er if you want, be a little safe, whatever you feel.
Okay. All right. So you can see here that DOT, has had this pretty big fall here from somewhere around $12 all the way down to about $6. So, it got cut in half essentially. All right. But now you can see that it's starting to find a little base, a little double bottom here with a breakout of this very clear trend line. But this move right here, this move is about a 20% move. So this is the RSI on the daily, not quite overbought. But I bet if you were to go look at the hourly, you would see that it's not quite overbought on the hourly. It is above 50. But if you look at the 10-minute,
about the 1 minute, Doc. Give us the juice.
So here. You're not seeing that. So it's a little bit, it was overbought here. It did pull back. Let's see if that's bullish, bearish divergence. Hang on. Hang on.
Give us all the stuff.
Let's see here. No bearish divergence. But what I would go with is the fact that we've had a 20% run here on DOT, and typically what happens is you see a retrace to the scene of the crime. So I bet we come back in here and we do something like this, maybe a 10-15% pullback on DOT.
Ooh, 10 or 15.
Maybe,
All right,
maybe.
I like you. All right, Ben usually goes a lot safer. You know, he always gives me a run for my money. All right, so stole my thunder a little bit on the taking dot away, but that's good because I wanted to kind of, I wanted you to lead me into it, so it's perfect. So yeah, I'm going bullish on dot for the next week here. You got a nice little double bottom, almost a simple outlook right here. For me, I'm also looking at this range, and we've been kind of just, banking around the lows here. We basically swept. So once again, when looking at something that takes the previous day low, the week low, we actually came in and took out everybody from the whole first quarter of this year, and then we're back in this region here. So for me, I'm actually going to go with a 33% target up to about 9.65 cents, $9.65 for next Friday. So 10 to 15% pullback or a 33% run. We will see how it all
Now, what's
goes
the
in for us.
prize? If I'm right, what happens? If you're right, what happens?
We got to figure out a better, a good way to see how maybe we'll do something with the wheel or something. We got a nice formulation we could do.
If I'm right, Ben gets to do push-ups. If you're right,
Ben gets to do push-ups. I like it. All right, that's what we'll do here. Perfect. Awesome. Well, yeah, that is all the time that we have for you folks today. We hope you enjoyed this another live episode here of The Bottom Line. Thank you so much, Dr. B, for joining us.
Yes,
it
thank you.
was such a great guest appearance. Do you have anything to finish us off with?
No, I think it's a great thing. You guys go back and forth. You talk about the bull and the bear case every week, and you can learn from this. So enjoy.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you all next time on The Bottom Line.
2 traders, 2 visions, 2 objectives, 1 chart. The Bottom Line.